230 miles above Earth, China's first astronaut drifts alone in total silence. Then a sharp knocking echoes through the hull, as if someone is asking to be let in. Every instrument reads normal, and there is no other human in orbit. This anomaly could signal catastrophe or reveal a deeper truth. What did Yang Liwei really hear in space, and how close did he come to disaster? Yang Liwei was not just the first Chinese astronaut. He was a fighter pilot, a test pilot, and the face of a nation's ambition. On October 15, 2003, the world watched as he climbed into a capsule barely 9 feet across, strapped in alone, and prepared for a journey that would last 21 hours. The Shenzhou 5 mission was more than a technical achievement. It was a statement. China had become the third country ever to send a person into orbit on its own. The launch, broadcast live, drew the eyes of 1.3 billion people. For Yang, there was no backup, no one on board to share the silence or the risk. No backup. The capsule was so cramped he could reach every instrument without unstrapping. Every detail had been rehearsed, but nothing could prepare him for the reality of orbit, the isolation, the tight quarters, and the knowledge that he was farther from home than any Chinese citizen had ever been. As the rocket thundered away from Jiuquan, Yang endured crushing G-forces, trusting the years of training behind him. Above the clouds, weightlessness took over. He drifted, surrounded by the hum of machinery and the vast black outside. 14 orbits, over 600,000 kilometers. Alone. Every move, every heartbeat was broadcast back to Earth. The pride of a nation rested on his shoulders, but inside that capsule, it was just Yang, the silence, and the unknown. 6 orbits into his flight, Yang floated in the dim glow of instrument panels as Shenzhou slipped into Earth's shadow. The silence pressed in on all sides, broken only by the faint hum of life support fans. Then, from somewhere behind the walls, came 3 sharp metallic knocks, each one ringing out with the clarity of a hammer on steel. The sound cut through the stillness, deliberate and unmistakable. Yang froze, his training kicking in, eyes darting to the displays. Cabin pressure was normal. Oxygen was steady. Hull integrity was green. Every gauge showed the spacecraft was healthy, but the sound had come from outside, where nothing living could survive. He listened, holding his breath. The knocks returned, irregular now, sometimes minutes apart and sometimes in quick bursts. They seemed to echo from the docking port, the only door between him and the vacuum. Inside a capsule 9 feet across, the sound traveled everywhere, impossible to pinpoint. Yang reached for the radio, voice steady despite the spike of adrenaline. He reported to Beijing Mission Control that he was hearing a knocking sound from the hull, and that all systems were normal. The reply came after a pause. They told him to continue monitoring. No one on the ground had an answer. In the darkness, Yang was left with the noise and the mystery. Each knock was a reminder that, in space, even the smallest anomaly demands attention. Space is not empty. Every orbit, thousands of fragments, some as small as paint chips, others as large as lost tools, race around Earth at speeds close to 10 kilometers per second. At that velocity, even a fleck of metal can punch through steel like a bullet. For Yang Liwei, any sound from the hull meant one thing: something might have struck the capsule. In low Earth orbit, the difference between safety and disaster is measured in millimeters of aluminum and fractions of a second. If a micrometeoroid or piece of debris punctures the hull, the air rushes out in a silent torrent. There is no warning. The human body, exposed to vacuum, has about 30 seconds of useful consciousness. In that time, vision blurs, eardrums rupture, skin swells. There is no rescue, only the hope that the hull holds. Yang ran through the possibilities in his mind. Was it a glancing blow from debris? A tiny fracture spreading through the metal? The capsule was designed to survive the violence of launch and the heat of re-entry, but nothing is truly safe in orbit. Even a minor breach could turn the cabin into a death trap. He checked every gauge, watching for the telltale signs: a drop in pressure, a spike in carbon dioxide, the hiss of escaping air. But the instruments stayed steady. The knocking continued, unpredictable, echoing through the cramped space. It was a reminder that, in orbit, danger can come from anywhere, unseen, unstoppable, and always just outside the wall. Alone, Yang had to trust the numbers, his training, and the thin shell of metal that separated him from the void. Every 90 minutes, Shenzhou 5 raced from blazing sunlight into the deep cold of Earth's shadow. In orbit, there is no atmosphere to soften the blow. Temperatures can swing from 250 degrees Fahrenheit in the sun to minus 250 degrees Fahrenheit in the dark. A 500-degree shift happens again and again, every single orbit. The hull, made mostly of aluminum alloy, expands as it heats and contracts as it cools. But the spacecraft is not built from just one material. Joints and seals connect aluminum to titanium, to composites, to rubberized gaskets. Each has its own way of reacting to heat and cold. This difference is measured by something called the coefficient of thermal expansion, a number that tells you how much a material will grow or shrink for every degree of temperature change. Aluminum, for example, expands much more than titanium when heated. When the sun hits the hull, the aluminum stretches, but the titanium barely moves. Where these parts meet, especially at places like the docking port, stress builds up. The tension gets stored until suddenly it is released. The result is a sharp vibration, a metallic knock. That sound travels through the structure into the air inside the cabin and reaches the astronaut's ears. There is no air outside to carry sound, but vibrations pass easily through metal. In space, these impulses can be surprisingly loud, echoing through the small capsule. The pattern is not random. It follows the cycle of heating and cooling, strongest at the seams, where different materials are forced to work together. Over time, engineers learn to expect these noises. But for Yang, alone in the capsule, the first knocks were more than a technical curiosity. They were a mystery that demanded an answer. After Yang's return, the spacecraft underwent a detailed inspection. Engineers examined every centimeter of the hull, searching for any sign of impact or fracture. The results were clear: no punctures, cracks, or stress marks anywhere on the capsule. Pressure seals held, and the docking port showed no damage. To go further, specialists recreated the mission's harsh environment in the laboratory. Using a thermal vacuum rig, they cycled test modules through rapid swings from blistering heat to deep cold, matching the extremes of orbit. Sensitive microphones picked up sharp metallic knocks, timed with temperature changes, strongest at the joints where different metals met. The sound matched what Yang described in orbit. Every test confirmed the same result. Thermal expansion alone could make a spacecraft ring with sudden, unmistakable knocks. No outside force was required. The mystery had a physical cause, proven on the ground. By 2005, the knocking had become more than a one-off mystery. Shenzhou 6 carried 2 astronauts, Nie Haisheng and Fei Junlong, on a multi-day mission. As their capsule slipped into shadow, the same sharp knocks echoed through the hull. 2 years later, Shenzhou 7's 3-man crew logged the same experience. Each time, the sound matched Yang Liwei's original report: rhythmic, metallic, strongest near the docking port. Always in darkness. Engineers compared mission logs and found the pattern consistent across crews and vehicles. The explanation, once a theory, became an accepted fact. Training manuals were updated, and new astronauts were briefed before flight. Yang himself warned later crews, "You will hear knocking. It is thermal, normal." What began as a source of alarm became a routine part of preparation. For China's astronauts, the knocking was no longer a threat. It was simply another sound of space. Every new frontier brings unfamiliar sounds. Even now, astronauts train to expect the unexpected, because in space, uncertainty can mean survival. What once unsettled one person alone in orbit is now standard knowledge. Progress isn't comfort. It's learning to listen for the unknown. What will we hear next?